Hey there, everybody. Mike Robbins here, coming to you live. It's 3 o'clock on Thursday, the 10th of March. If you're watching this live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you're watching the video of this after, it's whatever day or time it is. But I want to talk today about regret. Regret. How do you feel about regret, or just hearing that word or thinking about regret? If you're anything like me, and I think most people I know, regret is not something that you're very excited about or you think of in a very positive way. I definitely don't, or at least didn't. But I recently listened to a podcast interview that Brene Brown had on her Dare to Lead podcast with Daniel Pink. And he just wrote a book called The Power of Regret that came out a few weeks ago, I think. And they had a fascinating conversation that really impacted me and changed. I don't know if it changed the way that I think, but it kind of underscored some things that I had thought about for a long time with respect to regret, but I didn't even realize, because the word regret is kind of like loneliness. I did a podcast episode on loneliness a while back, and I realized that there are certain words or certain emotions or certain experiences, regret being one of them, that again I think of negatively, and it's one of those things I try to avoid, or I don't think about a lot. I don't talk about it a lot. I don't use that word even a lot. But the truth of the matter is, there's actually a lot of power for us in our regrets if we can face them honestly. But it's difficult. And it's not something that most of us like to think about or talk about. But I want to sort of break down a couple things that I think are important. And before I dive into this, I also just want to say I haven't been on live that much. I've been busy and lots has been going on. I've been wanting to come on and do more videos and connect. If you're joining live on any of the platforms, feel free to chime in with a question or a comment or a thought or a reflection or a disagreement. But I've also just been thinking a lot about everybody in Ukraine and what's going on there right now. And my heart is going out to everyone. I've been, yeah, just praying and imagining as much as I possibly can what that would be like, and putting a lot of things in perspective in my own life here. But in terms of regret and regrets, what I realized, and as I was listening to Dan and Brene talk about this, hey, Stefan, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. I have a lot of regrets, if I'm really honest about it. And it's one of those things, it's almost like feels weird. It feels vulnerable to share that out loud, and not like, I don't feel like I dwell on them a lot. I don't feel stuck in regret or stuck in the past, but there's regrets that I have from, way back, from childhood, from adolescence, from when I was in college, from when I, you know, played pro baseball, from when I was in my, early 20s after my baseball career, from, I met my wife, Michelle, when I was 26 and I'm 48 now. And I think of things that I regret from the early days of our dating, or from early days of marriage, or from the early days of parenthood. Our girls are now 16 and 13. Um, I think of things I regret from today, from yesterday, from earlier this week, from things that I said or things that I did that I wish I could have back, or I wish I could do better. And again, it's like we could look at that in a really negative way, but the reality is regret is a really powerful and important teacher. It allows us to reflect on things that we do, things that we say, things that we don't do, things that we don't try, and adjust. Right? What did Maya Angelou say famously? When you know better, you do better. And I think that's so true, right? So when we know better, we do better. And again, so I think there's two traps that we can fall into that have us not really face our regrets. And then there's a healthy balance point in between those two that's not that easy to get to, but I want to talk about that. So one trap is that we go into, and I can definitely relate to this one, denial. Denial, like, no regrets, no regrets. I don't have any regrets. I live with no regrets. I let everything go. And it's like, sometimes it can be denial, like, I don't want to go there because it's painful or it's hard, or I just pretending like it didn't happen or it doesn't happen. But sometimes there's even sort of high-minded denial, which is like, YOLO, you only live once, just go for it. No regrets, leave it all on the field, only look forward, not backward. I mean, I've done this in both ways throughout my life. I've both been in denial about the regrets because I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to stay wallowing in the past in a negative way. but also like even with positive intention as a motivational speaker, as a coach, as someone who's for the last more than 2 decades has been trying to empower and inspire people to not get stuck, not dwell, not um, beat themselves up. It's like, hey, look forward. Hey, move forward. Hey, what are the sayings? The windshield is 10 times bigger than the rear view mirror for a reason. All of these, they're cliches, but they're true and they're important. They're motivating and inspiring, but also potentially dangerous, because what it has us do is not really reflect with any sense of awareness, with any sense of ownership or responsibility on things that we may do or say, actions we may take, or in fact, things we may not take. Dan Pink talked about this in his conversation with Brene. He did a bunch of research on this, and he said, he jokingly said, hey, you know what a great business you could start is helping people deal with the regret that they have from not studying abroad when they were in college. And Brene laughed out loud, and so did I. It's like, I mean, that to me seems like, it's very much a first world problem, right? But it's one of those, oh, I wish I would have studied abroad when I was a junior in college. I wish I would have tried that or done that. The things he said, that so much of the research shows that we regret way more of the stuff that we didn't do as opposed to the stuff that we did do. Like the mistakes we made are less of the regret. It's, oh, I wish I would have taken that chance. I wish I would have asked that person out. I wish I would have said yes to that opportunity. I wish I would have traveled to that place or tried that thing, but I was scared, or I was worried, or my friend was going through something, or I had this, significant other back at home, or whatever it was. And again, there's reasons why we make the decisions that we do. But we get into life, and some of us are fortunate enough to get married and start having babies and settle down. And then maybe we regret certain things that we didn't try, or risks that we didn't take when we were younger, or whatever the case may be. So again, if we're in denial about the regret, if we either don't want to go there because it's too negative, and or we think, you know what, I'm just too positive, I just move forward, I don't dwell on stuff. Again, makes sense in some ways, but can be dangerous. The other side, and the more painful side even, is that we get stuck in shame. So Linda, thanks for saying that. You regret not having served in our armed forces. That's a really powerful one. Like wishing that you would have taken that step or done that at a certain point in your life, and now looking back and regretting that. But the shame part of regret can be really, really damaging and dangerous, right? It's when we get stuck in that place of shame. I did this terrible thing. I hurt this person really close to me. I made this huge mistake. I blew this huge opportunity, right? And these things happen. We make mistakes. People make huge mistakes in life. I've made huge mistakes in life. I've caused harm and pain to people that I love, not maliciously or intentionally, but I look back in my life and go, oh gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish I wouldn't have been unaware about this thing or that thing, or whatever the case is, right? I think about risks that I haven't taken in my business, in my life, and sometimes I feel, sad about those things or disappointed. And so, right, Stefan, a big part of my work is about compassion. And so if we get stuck in shame, then we start beating ourselves up. Then we start judging ourselves. Then it's like we can get mired down. That's when we really dwell. And now I'm stuck, and oh, I have all these regrets. And right? So if we can come at it with a healthier approach, not denial, not pretending like we have no regrets. I think Dan Pink was saying that some of the research he did about the way the brain works is that unless you're under the age of 5, or you're a sociopath, which I don't think any of us watching this are either under the age of 5 or a sociopath, so that would mean all of us, then we all have a certain amount of regret, and we have the capacity for regret, mentally, emotionally, sort of even, neurobiologically. But there's this healthy balance point. So we're not in denial. We're not pretending like we have no regrets. We're not pretending like we're way too positive to do that, or out of fear, or out of whatever. And we're also not getting stuck and dwelling in this beating up of ourselves that we've done these terrible things and we're an awful person. But in a sober way, in a mature way, in a present way, we look at the things that we've done, whether it was 20 years ago or an hour ago, and we're honest with ourselves about things that we regret. Because regret can be a powerful teacher. If I have an interaction with my wife, Michelle, and I leave that interaction and I regret the way that I spoke to her, I can do something about that. Both in terms of coming back and saying, "Hey, babe, I'm really sorry I was snippy with you earlier. Um, I'm really sorry that I didn't listen to you, or I said this thing, or I got short, or I walked away, or whatever it was. I'm sorry that I did that," and own up to it and make amends for that. And then maybe I can also bring that awareness into our next interaction so as to hopefully not do that as much or in the same way. And look, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I'm the best version of myself these days. And I don't say that from a place of shame or, judgment, harsh judgment on myself. I say that from a place of awareness. Like, this has been a hard couple years for me, for just about everybody I know. I feel like I've made some progress and I've healed and I've changed and I've adjusted and I've pivoted. And in some ways, I feel better today than I did a few months ago. 18 months ago, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of COVID, at least here in the US, from the way I think about it. Tomorrow is March 11th, 2022. That was the day 2 years ago that the NBA suspended their season. And it became abundantly clear that, like, oh, this is a pandemic. I didn't really know what that meant. And I had no sense that it was going to go for 2 years or longer. But all of what's happened over the last 2 years has had an impact on me, on you, on all of us in different ways. And from a place of self-awareness, from a place of looking at some of my behavior and how I act, and I regret a number of things that I've done and said in ways I've acted over these last 2 years. Now, I have compassion for myself, not like a excuse, but most of the time, like most things, I do the best I can. We all do the best we can. So, it's about, can we bring that sense of compassion? Jeff, I appreciate you talking about suffering from PTSD from the military. And I just honor you for your service and also for doing that work on yourself. That's not easy, right? And if there's a way we can look at ourselves, I think regret is a really fair but sometimes intense teacher. And yes, Stefan, I have regrets for sure about all kinds of stuff. Decisions that I made, conversations that I had, ways I reacted in the early days of the pandemic. Um, I was really scared. I think all of us were, and even at times I still am. We've had some challenges in our family and with some people closest to us. And with good intention, I've reached out and tried to help or tried to support or tried to intervene or tried to do stuff. And, sometimes I can be a little too pushy. I can be a little too nosy. I can be a little too up in people's business. So I regret the ways that I've hurt people doing that. I regret some of the risks that I haven't taken, especially early on in my life or in my business, or back to the college thing. I would have loved to have traveled abroad. Didn't work for my schedule and playing sports, but whatever. I'm not saying this to necessarily dwell on my regrets as much as, can we look at them, be honest about them, not go into denial, not go into a place of shame, but find that healthy balance point in between there, which is honestly, soberly, and look, it is a little bit painful. It is, to really take inventory and say, wow, I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry I said that, or I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I would have tried that. It's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel sad, to feel angry, whatever the emotions are around it. But can we learn from it? That's ultimately the goal. That's how looking back and reflecting on things we've done and said can actually make us better for it, can make us stronger. Think about mistakes that you made when you were younger, mistakes you made in relationships, mistakes you made with money, mistakes you made in business. You learn from those things, right? If you don't waste a lot of time beating yourself up, because if you do that, then you don't really learn from it. And if you don't actually deal with it, you repeat it. So that's why denial is so dangerous, but that's also why shame is so dangerous, because both of those things, if we're in denial, we're likely to repeat it. And if we're in shame, we're likely to just stay stuck and keep ourselves down. Neither of those things are going to benefit us. But if we go into that middle place, that balance point in between the denial and the shame, the higher road, that's where we really can learn, we really can grow. Yeah, Jeff, it can be difficult to be vulnerable for sure, in general, in so many ways. But that's where the growth is. That's where the healing is. That's where the transformation comes, is in the vulnerability. So, look, I know regret is not an easy or fun thing to talk about. I appreciate you even watching this live or clicking on it and watching the video of it afterwards. Thanks for that. I'm going to try to come on live here every week or so, and connect with you about different topics and things that are going on. Feel free to stay in touch with me and connected with me here on these various social platforms or at our website, which is mike-robbins.com. Until next time, be kind to yourself. See if you can look at your regrets with some empathy and some compassion, not denial or shame. And just remember, we're all in this thing together. So see you soon. Take care.